Hello guys, good morning. So it is November 16, Tuesday morning. After a while, I haven't made any contents recently, and I play chess. So I thought I would share this interesting chess match that I had a few minutes earlier, and um, kind of my way of getting back to making some contents, the kind of contents that I like. So let's jump into this chess game. So it was little quirky the way I played, but it just evolved into an interesting match. So he played knight f3, then I just pushed the pawn f6. He pushed the pawn g3. Then I just don't know. I never played this, so I just wanted to move my king to f7 for no reason. I don't know why I did it. I just felt to do it, and I was not taking this game seriously, so I just did it. Now he brought his bishop at g2. I am moving my knight to h6. Still no plan, and now he made a castle. And then again another quirky move. I'm just trying to develop pawn at a6. He pushes his pawn. He's basically thinking about targeting this knight at h6 from his bishop at c1. And then I play my pawn. I saw that he has done the castle, so I was thinking about just opening this line for my bishop, for my white bishop at c8. Now he just takes my knight there, possibly trying to weaken the pawn structure on the king side. Oh, it has become very loud here, so I'll have to close this door. And I will have to take his bishop with my pawn, so that's what. Oh, interesting. I just sacked my knight here. For, I don't know, I just wanted to sack something. So I just sacked my knight. He just nicely took my knight. He's happy. He is one piece up. He just safely moves back his bishop. Now I move my bishop to g7. He moves his knight to c3. Then I now started taking a little bit seriously, kind of like seeing what I can do. I move this bishop from c8 to e6. Basically didn't like the idea that he may bring his knight at d5 here. So then he pushes his pawn. He's thinking about opening this file and activating his rook. So now I just put my knight at d7 so that I can have a control over this center square. At e5, as I thought, he brought his rook back to e1. Now so his plan is to bring his knight here at d5 anyway, somehow. So I had to push the pawn so that he can do it. So now he brings his bishop. I think he just wanted to sack his bishop here. So the idea is, okay, it's not really a sack. So if I take it, so he will take it with his knight here. Then this bishop is vulnerable, because then this line will be open and he can bring his queen down to f3, and eventually I'll have to go to g8 or ge. Then with his knight he would be able to take my bishop here. So it is a good thoughtful game, but I did not play play along with that. So I just again, my idea is, oh, now that I already moved my king here to f7 and he already did castle, so why don't I just sort of like bring all my rook towards my king side, so that eventually I can have a heavy attack on his king. And also sort of, because he moved his pawn, this pawn at his white pawn at b2 is no longer very safely protected. And okay, so now his thought is he wants to kick my queen away. Maybe this is where he could have done something better, but that means I go with my plan, I bring my rook. Now sort of I start feeling like, oh, now that now I can safely or trickily can move back my king to the level, to the first row, and he has, and I can launch my attack on his king. Now he attacks my queen, I just safely come back to c7. Sort of the idea is, if at one time if this diagonal is open and my rook is going to attack this side, so I'll be quickly able to move. And then he tries to bring all the attack to his right also, to his king's side also. So he brings the knight to e2. Now I take his bishop. Okay, now one thing here is that he can no longer bring his queen right away on this square to give me a check, because he just brought his knight, so it probably was not a good move for him here. And also this knight move now blocked this queen here, and yeah, so he now gives me a check. I actually go forward because now there is no queen check from him, and I also want to save my bishop here. What does he play next? He just takes the bishop, so I just take it with my king. I still don't have any check. He actually gives me a check with his bishop at h3. I bring back my king to f7. Now he just brought his rook here, I guess potentially wanting to mess with my pawn structure here. I bring my king down to e7. He moves his other pawn to c4. Now I move my knight to e5. The idea is I want to attack his rook because there's a fork here. So if I can bring my knight from e5 to f3, then his rook is vulnerable. So he will have to save it by either moving his king, or most likely he did it with his bishop. He brought his bishop so that to control this square here, and I can no longer make the fork attack there. Now I am pushing my pawn. Now I am trying to attack with my rook on my king side towards his king. He attacks my knight. I bring my knight to g4. Now he opens the file again, potentially wanting to attack this pawn here. I now give him a check, so I don't want this pawn to advance, so I block this pawn here to advance and also have a nice check. Also I later discovered now that's the best play I have. So I saw that I can bring my bishop here, potentially kind of like corner the king here, at the same time attack his rook, and at the same time this square, the f2, is basically protected by my knight at g4. He has no quick way to basically attack my bishop there. But before that, I sort of moved my queen here so that I can quickly move. After quickly move, in case he launches any attack. Basically, let's say he pushes this pawn and he tries to attack my knight, then I can quickly move my queen, because this two diagonal is blocked, so this diagonal is open for me. So now he attacks my bishop, and now I do that bishop move at f2. Now it's a really concerning thing, because the attack is really strong there. I have all my rooks here, so he brings down his rook, but he still can't take it because my bishop is protected by my knight. Now I start launching more attack, so I basically want to take this pawn. I move my pawn to h4, so my pawn to h4, he takes my pawn, I take it with my rook. Now he attacks my knight here, but he won't be able to take my knight because his king will be on check. So it's basically pinned. This pawn is pinned at h3. Now he launches double attack on my bishop. Maybe he's thinking now, in the worst case, he will probably just sack one of his rook. But as you can see, he cannot take this bishop. If he takes this bishop, then there's another fork I have, so I can take his queen now with that fork. So that bishop move basically was lethal, and now I basically sack my rook here. Maybe that's where one of my tricky move, good move came here, and he'll have to take it with his bishop. I give him check. The idea was that I knew that I should be able to activate my queen somehow, because that was the idea. So now he brings his king. Now you see I have another fork here. I can bring my knight to e3 and potentially now take his, not potentially, I mean his queen is gone basically. He'll have to he will have to take it with his rook. Then my rook is protected by my queen. Now you see the utility of why I brought this queen here. Now this rook will be protected by my queen. I can easily come here and have a queen rook attack on the king. So I basically give him the fork attack. Now he, instead of taking with the rook, I guess, yeah, so he just took my bishop there. But that, I don't know whether maybe he did not see the fork, I don't know. I mean, why would he lose his queen? Well, maybe that's a blunder from him. Now another fork, isn't it? So once I go here, another fork, and he loses his other rook. So the best move probably was for him to sack this rook. He would still be up. If you sack this rook, I take it with the bishop, then we are still equal, because then he will have a queen, rook, and knight. I will have a queen, rook, and knight. But yeah, I mean, that's potentially a checkmate. So let's say he takes my knight here with the rook. I'll have to take knight here with the rook. I am taking with the bishop at e3. Then I'm giving him a check, but he can go there. There's a potential checkmate. It's not that straightforward, I think. I don't think there's a checkmate right away. Okay, so he basically makes the mistake. He makes himself more vulnerable. He loses the other rook. Now, I mean, it's a clear win for me, even though it's a slow win, I guess. So he takes my knight. I now bring my queen to g4, and it's already, I know that I'm gonna win this game. I'm just kind of like cleaning some pawn here, messing with his structure. He comes here, I just take the pawn at b4, he takes the pawn, I take the other pawn at f4, he brings his knight, attacking my pawn here at b7, I don't care, I just give him a check. He just goes here, he cannot go to c2 or or d2, because then I have a check with my rook, and then he will lose his rook because I can quickly capture with my queen this rook, and that will be a very quick checkmate. So he moves to b3, and now I check him with my rook by taking this pawn. He goes there at a2, he's still fighting. I just bring my queen to c3, he just takes that pawn as intended. I gave him a check at a3. Now he hides behind his rook at b1. I give him another check at d1. He comes to c2 because that's the only place he can go. Now I checkmate him by bringing d3. So it was a very interesting turnaround. I mean, I started playing this game because I just in the morning just play one chess game sometimes, but I was just sometimes I like to see different structures, and interestingly I'm pretty sure this structure is probably very new. So yeah, so if I do analysis board here, let's go to the analysis board here, and we go all the way up here, no game found. So let's see after how many move, no game found. So as you can see, there's almost 19 million games found, and then 71,000 this combination, 21,000 that combination. You see, I played my there's 2,630 games where we played the king here. Interesting. So plays the bishop there. So this is called Juker Fort opening Arctic defense. Interesting. So Juker Fort opening, then I'm doing the Arctic defense. Interesting. Okay. So it's a complete new game after so 19 games has played this, 11 games, no game found. The moment, so at the 8th move, at the 4th move, this is a completely new combination from there on. So that's the beauty of chess, is that I mean there's so many combinations of chess that you can imagine of. Now it's an entirely new game that nobody has ever played before, right? So, and yeah, now if I quickly go through again, so I guess this is one example of a game where possibly, even though he was one piece up, but position and structure really matters, like because he has castled, and like I am in an aggressive attacking mode where very quickly he had to be very passive, and eventually that worked out for me. So yeah, this was a very interesting match, and I really enjoyed playing this match. Yes, thank you all. So I will bring more chess content through this channel of mine. Unfortunately, it's very very noisy here. I think it's the lawnmower guy suddenly came. I did not know. Otherwise I'd probably make my video later on. So have fun, guys.